I appreciate it, but
Definitely.
I really do. We all of us have put in a lot of hard work, and it is paying off. And 11 away from 200. I can't wait to see what happens after 200. But he, anyway, real or not. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and get into it. And the title is She Can't Die. I Need a Babysitter Tomorrow.
So this all happened last night, and I still can't believe someone would do this. I'm 30 years old and a paramedic, and I've been in EMS for the past 8 years and absolutely love my job. Last night, we were dispatched to a 75-year-old female who fell at home. The patient stated that she tripped over her carpet and she hit her head when she fell. We arrived on scene and noticed that the home was a duplex with our patient's door on the right and her neighbor's door on the left. We make our way inside the home and we found her lying on the floor. The woman was awake and breathing, and we start asking her the standard questions like, "Are you okay? Does anything hurt? Do you remember falling?" etc. etc. She states that she has a pounding headache and that she remembers walking to bed and then waking up on the floor. In my field, that's a pretty big red flag, and we notice that she's got a pretty good lump on the side of her head and a pretty big bruise starting to form already. Noticing the bruise, I asked her if she was on blood thinners. She said she was on blood thinners for a previous stroke that she had a few years ago. We then urged her to let us take her to the hospital because there's a possibility that the fall could have caused a bleed in her brain, and that she should go to the hospital to get some scans done. The woman agrees, and we begin to package her up. We applied a C-collar around her neck just in case of any neck injuries. She denied any neck or back pain, so we lift her up and placed her on the stair chair. A stair chair is exactly what it sounds like. It's a chair with tracks that we use to carry patients up and down stairs. As we're getting her out of the house, her neighbor whips the door open and she starts yelling how she can't sleep with all the lights and noises outside. The sound of the stair chair apparently woke her up, and she wasn't happy about that. My lieutenant walks over to her and apologizes and said that we were dealing with a medical emergency and that we're leaving soon enough. The Karen neighbor then noticed that our patient was her neighbor, and that's when she starts yelling something totally different. The entitled neighbor starts yelling, "You can't take her to the hospital. I have errands to run tomorrow and she needs to watch my kids." My lieutenant then again reiterated that we were here for a medical emergency and that her health is way more important than her errands. The entitled neighbor then lets out a loud huff and then slams the door in his face. Now we thought that was the end of it, but we were wrong. After a few minutes in the back of the ambulance, we told our lieutenant that he could take the engine crew back to the station, and that we were going to be heading out in a few minutes. After we checked her vitals, got an IV going, and started the IV fluids, my partner gets out of the back and went to the driver's seat. 5 seconds later, the back doors of my ambulance flies open, and who do I see? The entitled Karen, of course. Apparently, she needed a few minutes to get dressed before coming outside. I then yell at her saying, "Hey, what the heck do you think you're doing?" The Karen yells back, "I told you she can't go to the hospital. She has to watch my kids tomorrow." She then starts trying to pull the cot out of the ambulance with our patient on it. Now luckily, she had no idea how to unlatch the cot and she could not get her out. Our patient then says, "I can't watch your kids tomorrow because I fell, and I might be having a stroke." The entitled neighbor then yells back at her and says, "You're fine. You don't need to go to the hospital because you're not having a stroke. You can talk." My partner hears the commotion and he goes to the back of the ambulance and pulls her off the cot. I slam and lock the doors, and you could tell the entitled neighbor was about to become combative. It's also important to know that either the police department or the sheriff's department responds to our calls when it's at night. Because of where we were, it took a few minutes for the sheriff's department to show up on the scene, but he got there just in time. Now I couldn't hear much through the door, but I saw the officer get out of his cruiser with his taser drawn. My partner then runs back to the driver's seat, starts heading to the hospital, and the last thing I saw through the back windows was the entitled neighbor stomping towards the officer, and then her hitting the ground after being tased. It was super satisfying to watch. I was talking with my patient and asked what that was all about, and she said that the entitled neighbor will just drop off her 3 young kids off at her house and leave her for several hours at a time with no notice. My patient had no idea that she was supposed to watch the kids at all because, again, the entitled neighbor never gives her a heads up about these things. Like I said in the beginning, this all happened last night, so I don't have any updates, but I'll post an update when I learn more.
Okay, real or nah?
Why they gonna lie like this? They had me right there until they got to the. I saw her body limping because she got tased. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is so fake. This is super fake. This is not real. No way. Like I said, they had me up until the Karen. No, they had me up till she tried to get the cot out of the ambulance. Who does that? They just would have slammed the door shut. There's no way this is real. No, I say not real.
Anna?
I think it's real but embellished.
So not real.
I only. You're right. It was a little
The taser. I'm
too
like,
on the
come
nose
on.
to. Yeah, I saw her body go down. Okay. I think you put that in because it was satisfying. Neighbor being the Karen. Yeah, I believe it.
Okay.
Even about going to the hospital and even about just dropping the kids off. Yeah, I believe it.
Okay. I believe the story up to a certain point. And I'm going to channel in my inner theist.
Oh,
So they tased the lady, and the lady went down, and we drove away. But I heard she got right back up like Jason Voorhees, and then the helicopter came from out of nowhere and
Yeah, like,
surrounded the lady,
come
and then the
on.
SWAT team came down. But somehow the lady was able to get back into her house, and then somehow, for some reason, she had a 1772 cannon that she shot and hit one of the helicopters, which ricocheted to the other helicopter, which ricocheted onto the other helicopters, and it was a big blast. And the lady just walked away, going, "I'll be back." Sorry, I was all the way believing you up to the. I honestly want to think I believed you all the way up to her yelling from the house. I think honestly, if I had to be truthful with you, I think as soon as you put the lady in the ambulance, you drove off. The rest of
Yes,
that
that's
is
what you're
when you
supposed
pulled
to
on the
do.
door. Because I don't know too many ambulances that don't lock the door behind them.
Yeah, they get you in, because I've been in enough of them. They put you in the ambulance, they lock the door, and they take off. They don't mess around with hearings.
Yeah, so I'm not. You put her in the ambulance and you drove off. The
And
rest of
she
that,
tried to get the cot out. No, she didn't.
yeah, that's
and then
stretching it.
Freddy Krueger came and helped her. Now, the rest of the story, and I even believe what you said. The lady said, "Yeah, she just." Because I'm pretty sure you probably asked her, "What the hell is wrong with your neighbors?" You probably did say, "Yeah, she just does that. She just dropped the kids off." I believe that part of the
Yep.
story that
And
the
you
lady
never thought
told
to
me.
call CPS. Be like, this lady is
Depends on
constantly
what
dropping my kid,
depends on
her
what
kids off,
neighborhood you in,
and
buddy.
leaving them for hours on end. Yeah, I'm calling CPS. Period. Like, drop your kids over here one more time.
And you wonder why I love living in the boonies with no. I love my neighborhood, but I'll tell you how funny my neighbors are. So, like I said, the party is still going on. Believe it or not, I think they're riding it down now. But either way, so we're setting up the tent and we're setting up the party and blah 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 and everything else. And you know how your neighbors are doing something, you notice them doing it, but you're really not paying attention. Like, good. So my neighbor was cutting his backyard. So I was like, oh, okay. No, it's a pretty good weather to do it, so that's cool and everything. So as soon as he finished, he looks over the fence at me and go, well, I did the best I can to the backyard, so your party will look nicer. I'm like, oh, so I didn't know that was what your reasoning for doing it was for, but thanks. Yeah, I just trying to contribute to the party and make it look a little nicer. So I cut the grass. I had to do it anyway, but I'm like, well, I think I'm going with you had to do it anyway. But thanks, I appreciate it. That's what kind of neighbors I have. I
I
know
wish I could say I had neighbors like that. I get
I
contact highs too much. I'm like, boy, y'all making my head hurt today. Whew.
yeah, I believe the first chapter is the yeah. I believe the first chapter ended with we put her in the ambulance, we locked the door, and we drove off. The rest of it
The
with
sheriff pulled up. They tased her. No, they tried to get. She tried to get the cot out. No, she didn't. They closed the door. They got her in. They counted to three. Got her in. Shut the door. He got in the ambulance and drove off. The end.
yeah, sorry. So I'll give you partial, dude. I think you embellished the
I
last
think
part
you
of
lied. You lied. One part's a lie. It's all a lie. Lied.
it. Yeah, that story was like multiple stories put together. It was. It
Hmm.
literally sounded like chapters. And the first chapter just didn't sound quite exciting enough. So now you had a
She got tased. You sat there and watched while a lady's supposedly having a stroke. You gonna sit there that long? You know how fast ambulances go? Like I said, I've been in enough of them. I know how fast they go.
mm,
Okay, but they start off like all other vehicles.
yeah.
They
I've
go
been in a
slow,
lot
but they
of
don't sit
ambulances.
around and wait minutes and minutes while
No,
Karen's getting
no, you
tased.
close the door and you go.
Yeah. Someone submitted that. Yes, somebody did submit that story. Yes.